Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Hi, this is me. Listen, I'm sorry I woke you up, but I wouldn't have called you in the middle of the night if it wasn't important. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to treat it like it's the most important question anyone has ever asked you. That means no kidding around, no dodging it. You are the only person I know who will always be honest with me. Everybody else has lost their minds. First, though, I'd like you to be quiet and listen for a few minutes while I tell you what's been going on in my life the past few days. Then I'll ask you my question, and you'll tell me the truth. You remember that I lived with Katie. She had long brown hair and was kind of short, but she had what I look for in a woman. She also had a very cute face with high cheekbones and a small, thin nose. When she smiled, it was a big, wide grin that showed a lot of teeth. But her eyes were the best thing about her. She had big, green eyes that were usually friendly, but when she was angry, she could look right into your soul. Something about the way she looked at you made it seem like she was trying to put two lasers right through you. She had that kind of power. About 4 months ago, Katie was my roommate. Well, actually, it's girlfriend. I mean, it was never really clear, but I thought you and everyone else knew we were a couple. When she moved in, we had only known each other for a few weeks. I could tell right away that she was much more serious about the relationship than I was. She started reminding me of the little dates we had been together for. It had been a month since we had last seen each other. She always stuck little notes of love to the fridge. Also, she was always dropping hints about how much she wanted to get married and have kids. We would drive by an old stone church and she would say, "Wow, that would be a great place to get married." She would coo when she saw parents with small children and say, "Oh, they look so happy," etc. Don't get me wrong, I liked her, but I had no plans to get married or have children. I told her more than once that I don't play that game. Then, the night before last, we were sitting in my apartment and the marriage talk came up again. We're just sitting there and watching the news. Then, I still don't remember how it started. She told me we should get married. I say no, that's not for me, just like I've done before. But this time, she didn't give up. She started crying and yelling that I didn't care about her and just used her without loving her. You know, the usual things that hurt girls do. I finally stood up and said, "Look, I'm happy with how my life is. You can either take me as I am or you can leave." I put on my jacket. "I'm going somewhere for a few hours. You decide for yourself if you want to stay or go. But if you stay, I never want to hear another word about marriage from you. Other than that, it's been really great. You've met me." I told her that she could do it my way or the highway. She was crying pretty loudly when I shut the door. I was going to a bar. I drank a couple of beers while watching a baseball game on the big screen TV. So after the game, I drove home by myself. Like I thought, she had gotten rid of everything and her car. Katie only left a note she had written by hand on the dining room table. That was her last shot at me, and it was a good one. In the first part of her letter, she said the usual things about breaking up. She was very mad. She loved me very much, and I had hurt her a lot. I would never be truly happy until I was in a relationship for the long haul. Blah, blah, blah. But the ending of the note really got to me. She wrote, "Your biggest mistake is that you care too much about yourself to care about other people. And if I don't do anything, you'll hurt someone else. So I'll make sure the punishment fits the crime." She wrote, "I curse you," in big black letters across the bottom of the page. "I curse you to lose your manhood from the bottom of my heart and with all the power I have. And you will be the only one who doesn't know it." Even though I didn't know what she meant, I felt a chill when I read that. Curse me? She was always kind of strange, but I didn't want to keep thinking about it, so I crumpled the paper and threw it away. It was the last piece of trash I put in a plastic bag, and I took it right out to the dumpster in the parking lot. I threw it in with a hard push, and when the bag hit the side of the metal canister, it made a ringing sound. I told myself, "Take that, Katie." I went to bed when I got back to my apartment. I left the room right away. The next thing I knew, the alarm clock started buzzing and buzzing until I finally reached over and turned it off. That was the first thing that was different about that morning. Usually I could wake up without my alarm clock, but my mind was really cloudy. Even though I had slept the normal 7 hours, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. I was so worn out. Still, I did my usual things to get ready for work. I turned on the TV, got a big glass of orange juice and a few pieces of buttered toast, and went to the bathroom to take a shower and shave. But as I did, there were a lot of small clues that something wasn't right. I could barely hold my favorite big cup in my hand. When I showered, my skin felt soft and sensitive, especially on my chest, and my legs were smooth to the touch. I shaved, but my face and neck felt just as clean as if I had already shaved that morning. Also, when I looked in the mirror over the sink, I was looking at the bottom instead of the middle. When I put on my pants, shirt, and tie, they all felt too big and long, as if I had lost about 40 pounds. When I tightened my belt, I had to keep going past the hole in the loop that usually fit my waist all the way to the last hole. Even that felt loose. Even though I pulled the laces as tight as I could, my shoes were very loose when I put them on. I finally got my briefcase and went to my car. I unlocked the door and put my briefcase on the passenger seat as I always do. But when I sat in the driver's seat, it was like all the settings had been changed by someone else. It was too far back and too low. The mirrors were all off, and the steering wheel was too high. I had to spend a few minutes fixing everything, and the whole time I was wondering who broke into my locked car and messed everything up. Then I pulled my seatbelt across my chest and buckled it, but it felt tight and uncomfortable. No matter how I adjusted the belt, it kept pressing into my chest. The funny thing was that none of this really affected me much at the time. I was still in a cloudy state of mind. I was glad to get to the parking lot after fighting rush hour traffic all the way there. I walked through the front door with my usual smile of self-assurance. I gave the front desk clerk, Betty, a nod as I walked by. But instead of smiling back and saying, "Good morning, Brian," she looked me up and down with wide eyes. That made me do a double take. Did something go wrong? Did I tie my tie wrong? I took a quick look as I walked by, but everything was clean and in the right place. Except for how baggy my suit was, I looked like any other gray suit office worker on my way to work. But when I looked back at Betty, she was still staring at me like I had grown an extra head. I put my head down and hurried to get to my office, room 213, where I could be safe. On the nameplate, my name and job title were still the same. B. Nelson is the assistant manager of accounts receivable. I put my key in the lock, opened the door, slid in quickly, and shut the door behind me. I let out a sigh of relief. I thought maybe I could finally calm down and chill out. I got to work as soon as I sat down at my desk. Angela, a woman from across the hall, knocked softly and stuck her head through the door after a few minutes. She was grinning really big. "B, morning. How's everything going?" B? What did that mean? But I just let it go. Angela took a sip of her coffee and asked, "Did you see that cute delivery guy when you came in?" She laughed and said, "Maybe I should order something just so he can bring it to me." Wow, she's acting strangely, I thought. She had never before talked to me that way. I don't know what else to say except that it's girly. She was nice, but she was very girly. Also, Angela went on and on about how cute her 2 little kids were when she took them to school that morning. I gave her a smile and a nod to make it look like I cared. I'd been trying to get her to go out with me for weeks, but when I had talked to her before, she always seemed awkward. I thought she liked me, but she never said yes when I asked her out for drinks after work because she didn't want to date at work. This time, though, Angela asked me to sit with her at lunch as a way to end the conversation. When she asked, I was shocked and my jaw almost hit the floor. She was so nice about it that it felt like we were already best friends. I said yes, of course. She smiled, gave a small wave, and then closed the door, so I thought things were getting better. As I worked, I started to feel a little better. Finally, it was noon. When I stood up to leave, my pants cuffs almost made me trip and fall. I had to get down on my hands and knees and pull the cuffs out from under my heels. I didn't understand it either. Had the threads come loose? Since I didn't have any pins, I just rolled up the sleeves. Even though it looked like hell, At least I wasn't going to step on my own pants all the time. I made it to the lunchroom. People were spread out across 10 long tables in half of the room. Everyone looked in my direction. That was strange because I knew most of them and had been eating lunch in the same room for 6.5 years. But for some reason this time, people were staring. Angela got up from her chair in the far corner and waved me over. I put my head down and walked quickly over, ignoring the looks that followed me. I heard Tom, Jeff, and Andy, the 3 idiots I usually ate with, snort and laugh as I walked by. Before I got to Kathy's table, I gave them a mean look, but that just made them laugh more. I could feel my face getting redder and redder. I moved over to sit next to Angela and put my lunch bag on the table. At last, everyone in the room went back to what they were doing. Angela grinned and whispered in my ear, "Hey, good job," as I put my daily share of junk food on the table. "You made them pay attention." I made a disgusted noise. "I should just go over there and see what the big deal is." Angela frowned. I don't think she could answer that question. After trying for a few seconds to come up with something, she changed the subject. "So, how are you getting along with the person you live with?" I sighed. "It's funny that you bring up my roommate. We broke up last night." I sighed like I was sad. This was the perfect chance for me to show Angela that I cared about her and let her know that I was available. I leaned in close and spoke in a private way. She wanted to get married, but I told her I would never do that. I told her no way and stood my ground. So I left, and when I came back, she was gone. Angela made a face that looked like she didn't understand what I was saying. Still, she didn't say anything while I was talking. Anyway, I said all she gave me was a small note saying goodbye. If you can believe it, she cursed me. I don't mean that she cursed at me. I mean she really did curse me. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't find my joke funny this time. By the end of my story, Angela didn't understand a thing. Get married? What do you want to say? I thought you were living with a girl. Then I felt a little bit of anger. I just told you that. I thought Angela was going to cry for a second. She poked her spaghetti a couple of times with her fork, looking like she was hurt. She finally sighed and began to eat. After that, she didn't talk much. I stirred for a few more minutes before I got comfortable and finished eating. Even though I knew my chances with Angela were over, I didn't want to give up and leave. When it was 1 o'clock, I was very polite and thanked Angela for lunch before leaving. She gave me a small half smile and a nod, but she didn't say anything else. I think I scared her. I worked for about an hour after I got back to my office. Moving papers from the in basket to the out basket helped me calm down. But just when I thought I might be able to stay in the house for the rest of the day, nature called. Right then, I had to go to the bathroom. I hoped I wouldn't run into anyone on my way to and from the bathroom, which was just down the hall. I put my head out into the hall and heard nothing. I almost went down the hall on my tiptoes and used my key to get into the men's room. The only other person in there was Tom, who was one of the 3 guys at lunch who thought I was so funny. I was still angry, so I looked at him straight in the eye and growled, "Hey, Tom." Buddy. He didn't laugh this time, though. He looked at me with wide eyes, as if I had grown horns on the side of my head. I don't know if he was coming in or leaving, but he wasn't there for long. By the time I got to the bathroom, he was already gone. Then, as I was getting ready to leave, a strange thing happened. I was throwing the pile of wet towels into the trash. I caught a glimpse of a person in the bathroom mirror as I looked away. It was this small, thin girl with short, sandy blonde hair who was standing next to the trash can. She was wearing a man's shirt and tie. I stopped moving for a second because I didn't know if anyone else was in the room. But when I turned around and looked in the mirror, she was gone. Only me. Brian Nelson, the idiot, was there. I gave a disgusted headshake. I thought I had lost my mind. I was able to leave without anyone seeing me and get back to my office. But I knew I was done for the day. I turned off my computer and wrote on a note that I was sick and needed to go home. I didn't want to go back past Betty at the front desk, so I used a side door to get back to my car. A couple of people I didn't know were out there, but they were on the other side of the parking lot, and I was walking between cars. They didn't listen to me at all. I got to my car and got in as quickly as possible. I took a big, deep breath of relief as I pulled out of the parking lot. I might be able to take a break, and no one would know if I left early. When I got home, I could think straight again. I found my apartment. When I got home, I took off my clothes and put them in the washing machine. I went to the bathroom and took a long, hot shower that was very relaxing. As I washed myself from head to toe, I liked the feeling of the soap and water on my skin. When I got out of the stall and dried off with a towel, I felt like a new person. When I went back to my bedroom from the bathroom, where it was hot and humid, it was cold. I got goosebumps all over my body. I put on an old bathrobe, and the fibers started to itch my skin right away. My favorite robe was too uncomfortable for some reason, so I changed into a loose-fitting t-shirt and a pair of gym shorts. I liked how much better the soft cotton felt against my skin. But as I was digging through my dresser, I saw something odd. There were pants, bras, halter tops, and blouses for women mixed in with my clothes. I went to the wardrobe. In addition to my blue and gray suits and white dress shirts, I had a collection of dresses, skirts, and pantsuits in many different colors. There were several pairs of girls' shoes, like pumps, sandals, and loafers on the floor of my closet, along with my bulky men's dress shoes. This was very strange. I don't think Katie would leave any of her things behind. She also had a small dresser and a closet all to herself. She never put any of her things with mine. I walked across the room to the other side. Katie's clothes were not where she had put them. Also, none of these clothes looked like anything Katie had ever worn. I couldn't figure it out. As I stood there, something in the mirror on the dresser caught my eye. For a split second, I saw the same small, sandy blonde-haired woman I had seen in the bathroom mirror at work. This time, though, she was standing where I should have been and wearing my t-shirt and gym shorts. I turned my head around quickly and looked in the mirror. But only I, Brian Nelson, was there. I even walked over to the mirror and put my face right up to it. I was so close that I could see the stubble in my half-day-old beard. But my shirt and shorts seemed way too big, and I was sure I was about 3 or 4 inches shorter than I should have been. Then I thought about Katie's little note. How did she say it? I could remember the part about the curse, but not the exact words. At that moment, I wished I hadn't been so determined to throw away that piece of paper. I went back into the main room of the apartment as I tried to remember. A small piece of paper on the table in the dining room caught my eye. I suddenly felt a cold shot of fear. It's not possible! But it was a note from Katie. When I picked it up to read it again, my hands were shaking. There it was, written in angry big letters. From the bottom of my heart, and with all the power I have, I curse you. And you will be the only one who doesn't know it. When I read it again, I got the same chill I got the first time. I felt like my brain fog was starting to lift for the first time all day. All the strange little things that happened during my day, which I barely noticed as the day went on, started to make sense. Lose my masculinity, it was scary to think about. I took another look at myself in the mirror in my bedroom. It was still me in the image that came back. But the small, sandy blonde-haired woman wearing my clothes kept coming back to my mind. I had only caught a glimpse of her twice that day. Then I had a crazy idea. I thought about how the clothes of other women were mixed in with mine. They really existed. I had seen them and put my fingers on them. I know this sounds strange coming from me. I had never even tried on women's clothes as a joke, but it seemed like the best thing to do at the time, and all of my regular clothes seemed way too big all of a sudden. I took off my t-shirt and gym shorts. Then I picked out some women's clothes from my dresser and closet as if I were handling radioactive material. I put on some cotton pants that were white. I put a bra around my chest, snapped the clasp, spun it around so the cups were in front, and then put the straps over my shoulders. It was uncomfortable for a moment. I went to the bed and sat down. I put one foot into a pair of white sheer nylons and then the other. Lastly, I pulled the waistband over my hips until the material tightly wrapped around my lower body. To finish off the outfit, I wore a baby blue short-sleeved shirt with a collar and a flower-patterned short skirt that only went halfway down. Last but not least, I put on a pair of black leather Mary Janes with 3-inch heels. When I looked at myself again, I laughed out loud. I couldn't believe how stupid I was. Katie had gotten into my head so much that I started dressing like a woman for the first time in my life. Then I laughed less and less, and then I stopped. It felt great on me, which I thought was strange. I thought it was all too small for me when I held it in my hands. I thought I would have to pull and tug on them to get it on, but I didn't. And the clothes felt good once I put them on. They felt like a part of the group. While I was standing there thinking about it, the worst thing that could have happened did. Someone knocked on my front door. I froze. Fear struck me like a bolt of lightning. I stood there and listened. Maybe that person would leave, but after a few seconds, the knocking started up again, and this time it was louder. The door opened and a woman's voice came in. "Hello, are you awake? Hello." Angela, of all people, did it. I didn't move at all, and I could feel my heart beating in my chest. I wanted her to give up and leave. Angela, on the other hand, was adamant. "B, come on, what happened? Open up! I can see you inside." She hit with more force. I thought, oh God, nothing could go wrong anymore. I knew Angela was serious, though, so I did what I could. I stumbled across the living room in my new high heels on my way to the front door. I took one last deep breath to calm down, and then I opened the door. Angela had a very worried look on her face and was holding her fist up like she was going to knock again. "Oh, B! Oh, thank God!" She pushed past me to get through the door, and she almost knocked me over in the process. She talked about going 100 miles per hour. I was really scared. I mean, you show up in men's clothes and act so strangely. Tom saw you in the men's bathroom and heard you yelling, but when we looked for you, you were gone. She paused to take a deep breath, and then she patted herself on the chest. "Oh, how sad. I need to take a deep breath." She did a double take and looked at me from top to bottom as she did this. Then a smile broke out on her face. "I just knew it was a joke, though. It didn't take you long to put on your regular clothes again, did it?" That blew my mind. "What do you wear?" I was dressed as a man and standing there, half expecting her to run out of the room screaming. Instead, she did the opposite of what I thought she would do. She put her arms around my shoulders and pulled me close to her. Then she gave me a big hug. I was starting to feel a little dizzy, so it was a good thing she did. For a few seconds, I put my head on her shoulders and tried to figure out what was going on. She finally let me go, but she kept her hands on my shoulders. She saw that I was having trouble getting up. She said, "But oh, honey," in a warm, friendly voice, "you're so pale. I understand why you need to sleep." I opened my mouth to say something, but it took me a few more seconds to find my voice. I said, "Yeah, go to sleep." When I swallowed, my mouth and throat were as dry as a bone. My voice was hoarse and tense. This afternoon I didn't feel good, so I went home. She gave me a pat on the back and showed me where to sit. In a motherly voice, she said, "Of course you did, honey, but you should have really spoken up. So many people were worried." I tried to get it out of my head by shaking it. I could feel real tears coming to my eyes. "I know, I apologize." I cleared my throat and did what I could to calm down. "But as you can see, I'm fine now," I said in the most sure voice I could muster. All he needed was a little rest. I pushed Angela away and stood up to make my point clear. It was strange to stand in heels for the first time, but I think I did better than I should have. I patted Angela on the back to reassure her and then led her toward the front door. "Angela, don't be afraid. All I am is a little bit tired. Everyone should know that I'll be back tomorrow." She gave a satisfied nod. "Okay, honey. Then see you tomorrow." She stood by the door and gave me a small wave as she left. "Good night, B." I slammed the door in her face and turned the deadbolt to get her attention. B? Who did she think she was? Then I saw something I hadn't seen before, a flash of gold on the kitchen counter. I got up and walked over to it. It was a thin gold necklace with a gold-plated name on it. A small strip of gold writing was dangling from my fingers. So I could read the name. I put it in order. I fell asleep. Just now, I woke up with the necklace still in my hand and women's clothes on. Now you know why I had to call you at 3 a.m. Like I said, I need to know the truth, and you're the only one I can trust to tell me the truth. Tell me, am I a girl? Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.